Video is going to focus on volume and surface area and cylinders. So the first thing we need to start out with is just some basic vocabulary. So the surface area of a shape is just the sum of all the surfaces of a three-dimensional figure. And some of the key words that help us identify that a problem's asking us to solve for surface area are cover, wrap, paint, surface, or square units. So you can imagine if you are going to wrap a present for somebody, the amount of wrapping paper that you're going to need to wrap the actual gift is going to be something that you would solve surface area for. Whereas the volume of something is the amount of space that is occupied by a figure. So some of the keywords for volume are fit, fill, space, hold, amount, inside, contain, and cubic units. So for volume, that would be something like how much does this jar of jelly beans have inside of it? So how many jelly beans are in it? The amount of space that's being taken up by that object. So the formulas that you're going to be using are all going to be listed here. They're going to all be given to you during your SOL test. So you can access your formula sheet that has all of these formulas on it, but they're also listed here while you're working on the notes today. So one thing that you really want to keep in mind when you're solving all of these is that we're going to use pi approximated to 3.14. So you're not using a pi button on a calculator for these, you just want to use the decimal 3.14 to get your answers rounded nicely. Now for the volume of a cylinder, so how much is inside of a cylinder, we have V equals pi r squared h. So again, we're just multiplying here, but we're multiplying pi times r squared times h. So r in this case is the radius. So r means radius. And if you remember, radius is only half of the distance across a circle. The entire distance across a circle is called the diameter. So to find the radius, you just have to take half of the diameter. So if they give you the whole diameter for this problem, then you would have to divide it into two pieces to figure out what the radius is before you can use this formula. H here just means height, so how tall it is, just like the H in the rectangular prism. So not too hard to transfer between the two shapes there. So the volume of a cylinder here has pi times r squared times h. So when you're going to solve this, you have to take the radius squared and do that first, because you have to remember that we use GEMDAS. So it's been a while since we've kind of like talked about that actual formal process, but it's something that you have to follow whenever you're simplifying an expression. So you have to use your exponents or take care of those exponents before you multiply. So do exponents before multiplication. So whatever your radius is, square it first, and then you can multiply the pi times the height times the radius squared. The cylinder has a circle on the top that we need to find the area of, and a second circle on the bottom that we need to find an area of. And that is this first part of our formula right here, 2 times pi r squared. Because to find the area of one circle, you do pi r squared, but since we have two of them, we have to multiply it by 2. So 2 pi r squared. So that takes care of that piece. Now the rectangle part here is a little trickier. So when you have the net of this shape, this rectangle piece kind of gets unfolded, and this part is just the height of whatever your cylinder was. But this distance across here, I know it's kind of hard to see it, I highlighted over that. Oops, let's get the eraser. So the distance here is 2 pi r squared. And that's because that is taking care of that whole distance around a circle, which if you remember the entire distance around a circle, it's called the circumference. Well, the circumference of a circle is just calculated by doing 2 pi r. So we have this whole circumference as the side of this rectangle times the height of the entire cylinder to get the area of this rectangle. So we're getting the whole area of the rectangle times, by multiplying the circumference by the height. So that's where the pink part comes from, and we add these all together, we get the entire surface area of our cylinder. So that's just an explanation of where we're getting those formulas from. And again, you don't have to memorize these because you'll be given a formula sheet anytime you're asked to solve them. Go ahead and flip to the next page, and we're going to talk about cylinders and their volume and surface area. So we have a different type of shape, but our steps are still the same. So the first step is always to figure out which formula you need to use. So we're talking about volume first, and this is for a cylinder. So the volume of a cylinder formula is volume equals pi r squared h. So we have this exponent that we're going to need to take care of first every time. So volume equals pi, remember we replaced pi with 3.14. We're going to multiply that by the radius squared. Our radius is given to us as 4, so 4 squared. And then we're going to multiply that all by the height, which is 12. So using GEMDAS, we bring down 3.14 and our multiplication sign, and we take care of our exponent. 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. Bring down the rest. Once we have all multiplication, we can just go ahead and multiply everything together here, and our volume becomes 602 and 88 hundredths, and we are talking about centimeters cubed because we're back in volume here, so we need cubic units. If you want to pause and try the next one on your own, you're more than welcome to. We have the volume of a cylinder here, and this time the height is 13. That's how tall this shape is. And the radius is 15. It's half the distance of the circle that is on the top and bottom of this cylinder. So we're still using the volume equals pi r squared h formula. And this time, when we fill it in, our radius is 15, so we're squaring 15, and then we're multiplying it all by 13. So we take care of GEMDAS by finding our exponent's value first. So 15 squared means 15 times 15, which is 225. Now that we've taken care of all of our exponents, we just have multiplication left. So when we go ahead and multiply this all together, our final answer becomes 9,184 and 5/10, and we are talking about inches cubed for volume here. Now in our last set of examples, we are still dealing with cylinders, but this time we're finding the surface area of them. So we have height of 12 and radius of 4 in this example, but we're finding the surface area of a cylinder, so we're using the formula SA equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So our first step is still just to fill in all the numbers that we know. So 2 times 3.14 times the radius squared. Our radius here is 4, so 4 squared, plus 2 times 3.14 times the radius times the height. And then I'm going to take care of my exponents first. So I have 2 times 3.14 times 4 squared is 16, plus no exponents here, so I could just multiply these all together. Or we can just show that they're still being multiplied here. So in my final step, I just have to complete my multiplication and then I can do my addition. So when I multiply this first chunk together, 2 times 3.14 times 16, that gets us 1,413, plus 2 times 3.14 times 15, or sorry, times, I have the wrong number. I'm looking at the wrong example. We have, this first chunk gave us 148 hundredths, and then the second part here gives us 301 and 44 hundredths. When we go ahead and add those all together, we get 401.92, and we are talking about feet squared because we're back on area here. So that's your example for finding the surface area of a cylinder. There's a few more steps here just because you have an exponent, multiplication, and addition. So just make sure you're following GEMDAS as you go through these. Feel free to pause and try the last one on your own. We are still using surface area of a cylinder, so SA equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So this time my radius is 15 and my height is 13. So 2 times 3.14 times 15 squared plus 2 times 3.14 times 15 times 13. We take care of our exponents first, so we have 2 times 3.14 times 225 plus 2 times 3.14 times 15 times 13. In our last step, we need to take care of this multiplication. So here, when we multiply all these together, we get 1,413 plus, when we multiply this section together, we get 1,224 and 6/10. Adding everything together, we get 2,637 and 6/10, and we are dealing with inches squared for surface area. So make sure you're following GEMDAS, using the correct formula for your shape, and label your the dimensions of your shape as you go along so you don't make a mistake in filling in which letter is which number. So take your time and make sure you're checking your formula sheet. Thanks for watching.